So I'm a member of a lot of Scottish Scots language forums on Facebook and things like this, and Scots poetry forums. And very often I find myself reading poetry in Scots, since Scots is quite close to English. It can be understood usually in the kind of the English idiom, and it's a lot easier to understand than something like Gaelic, which is more like kind of an ancient language, well, not an ancient language since there are current Gaelic speakers, but yeah, it's a lot closer to English than Gaelic is, and I think some of the most wonderful poetry has been written in Scots, and I'm a big fan of the language and the culture, and I came across this poem on a Scots language forum the other day, and this is called The Tramp by James Thompson. And yes, in this video, I am going to read the poem to you, and I'm going to do a Scottish accent more than likely while I'm reading the poem in Scots. And yeah, I thought this was the most wonderful poem, and I don't know, it fits the 18th century poet James Thompson who wrote this poem, but I'm tempted to say I don't think it is. I think the idiom is slightly off for an 18th century poem, and I think this might be actually another James Thompson who's been writing later, though I'm not sure about it. But in any case, I reposted this to my Facebook because I just wanted to keep a note to it for myself so I can go back to it from time to time. And I'm always on Facebook, so it's just a convenient place for me to dump something. And yeah, I think this is a wonderful poem. I I wish I could put the text for you in the description so that you can read it yourself and see, you know, um, the kind of the Scots language there with the poem. But yeah, I thought this was brilliant and worthy of being saved and thought about in future years because it's just a great, yeah, little thing. So I'm going to read it now. The poem goes like this: The Tramp. For those we seek the solitude as shinest frae the prying eyes, the chattering classes would ne'er intrude, alone your company satisfies. Nae place that you can ca' a home, the freedom of the open road, your inner soul a burning flame, nae permanent or fixed abode. Some look with pity, some with scorn, upon your clarty scruffy look, your threadbare jacket somewhat torn, a vagabond, perhaps a crook. Nae wallet or the blighted debt would, we would but recommend the pressures felt quick to forget or even comprehend. As yin with nature her gifts to please, what little te demand, beneath the stars amongst the trees, if you would understand. And like having been homeless in my own life, I that poem does somewhat deeply resonate with me, I think. And, this idea of the pure freedom outside of society, the freedom of the open road, and all this sort of thing. And, giving up on the world and giving up on life and just becoming a kind of a wandering tramp or something like this. Yeah, there is a certain sort of bent appeal in that. And, there's been many iterations of that desire expressed in literature throughout the years. You can think of Thoreau, and you can think of well, the other American transcendentalists, I suppose, or the great nature writers, the romantics and people like this. And think, and it's romantically inflected, that poem, deeply, and modernist, and I think really ought to be more famous than it is. I think that was really a startling little poem, and you know, I really like it. I think it's really good. And I think if it were written in English, it probably would be more widely known and more widely recognized. But because it's in Scots, it's it's kind of out of the limelight a bit, isn't it? And it's a bit recherche or recondite or something like that. And it's not quite, yeah. not quite as well known as it should be because it's in a different language. I mean, it's not it's not a very different language, Scots. It's, you know, there's a clarity, you know, that's a word that's quite far away from English, but te, you know, that's two, obviously, so, you know, that's quite close to English. And, you know, Scots can be read, I think, by most English people, probably, but, yeah. It's a cool poem. Anyway, that's the end of this video, I think. I'll keep it nice and brief. Just wanted to share that with you all today. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that and hope you have a nice day out there with whatever you're doing. Bye, everyone. I love you lots. See you soon.